Marcus had not eaten breakfast that morning. He sat in his old truck on the way to the auction barn with just a black coffee that had gone cold 2 hours ago. His hands shook as he held the steering wheel. Not from fear, but from something deeper. Something he could not explain to anyone, not even to himself. The $500 in his shirt pocket felt like it was burning through the fabric. $500. That was everything he had saved for 3 years. That was money for food for 2 months. That was his emergency money, the money he kept for when everything fell apart. But everything had already fallen apart. A long time ago. Marcus was 48 years old. He had the face of a man who had seen too much sadness. His skin was weathered and tan from years of outdoor work. His eyes were grey like a winter sky, and they carried the look of someone who had lost hope, but was still searching for it somewhere. His dark hair was mixed with grey now. His hands were rough and strong, but they had been idle for too long. He had nothing left. No ranch, no wife, no real home, no future that looked bright. He lived in a small cottage on his brother's property. It was really a storage shed that his brother let him sleep in. He worked odd jobs for money, fixing fences, helping with harvest, painting houses, anything to make a few dollars. His brother was kind, but Marcus knew he was a burden, a man who had failed at life, a man who was too old to start over. The auction barn was a big wooden building on the edge of town. Dust hung in the air like ghosts. The smell hit Marcus first, the smell of animals and hay and sweat and sadness. The barn was full of people, farmers and ranchers and buyers who came to find cheap horses, men with loud voices and hard faces. They laughed and drank coffee and talked about money. Nobody smiled real smiles. Everything felt cold and cruel. Marcus walked slowly through the barn, looking at the horses. Most of them looked tired. Some looked sick. He walked past stalls where horses stood with their heads down, waiting to be sold or sent away to unknown places. His heart felt heavy with each step. All these animals, all these lives, trapped in this place, being bought and sold like objects instead of living creatures with feelings. Then he saw him. In the corner stall, in the shadows where the light did not reach very well, there was a black stallion. The horse was alone. The horse was large, with a strong body that once must have been powerful and beautiful. But now the horse looked broken. His coat was dull and matted with dirt and mud. His mane was tangled and messy. His head hung low, almost to the ground. He stood on 3 legs. One back leg was held up, not touching the ground. The horse looked sick. The horse looked tired. The horse looked like he had given up on life. When Marcus looked at the stallion, something happened in his chest. Something that he did not understand. He felt a pull, like a rope tied around his heart, pulling him toward this animal. He had never felt this way before. "Do not waste your time looking at that one," a voice said behind him. It was the auctioneer, a heavy man with a dirty shirt and a mean smile. "That one is no good. That one will never be good again. He is broken. His leg is bad. His mind is bad. Some say he killed a man once. Nobody wants him. He will go very cheap, but he is not worth buying. Not even for free." The auctioneer walked away, laughing. Marcus stood alone in front of the stall. He looked at the black stallion, and the black stallion looked at Marcus. For just one moment, they looked into each other's eyes. And in that moment, Marcus saw something that nobody else could see. He saw pain. He saw suffering. He saw a spirit that had not completely died. He saw sadness, yes. But he also saw intelligence. He also saw strength buried deep inside, hidden and forgotten. In that moment, Marcus saw himself. He saw his own pain reflected in the eyes of the animal. He saw his own broken dreams. He saw his own lost hope. He saw a creature that the world had thrown away, a creature that everyone said was worthless, a creature that nobody believed in anymore. And Marcus understood something important. He understood that this horse needed him. And maybe, just maybe, he needed this horse too. Hours later, the auction began. Marcus sat on a wooden bench. His heart was beating very fast. He was nervous. He was scared. He knew what he was about to do was foolish. He knew that his brother would be angry. He knew that the whole town would laugh at him. He knew that he had no money to waste on a broken horse. He knew all of this. But he also knew that he had to do it anyway. The auctioneer brought horses into the ring one by one. Buyers shouted prices. Money changed hands. Beautiful horses were sold to rich people who knew how to take care of them. Then finally the black stallion was brought into the ring. The horse limped slowly, struggling to walk. He looked even more broken under the bright lights. The auctioneer began to speak, but his voice was not excited. His voice was tired and bored. Here we have a stallion. Black coat, bad leg, bad temperament. As I said, this one is not worth much. Who wants to start the bidding? Do I hear $100? Anyone? Anyone at all? Nobody raised their hand. The barn was very quiet. Do I hear $50? Still nothing. People looked away. Nobody cared about this horse. Marcus felt tears coming to his eyes. He watched this beautiful animal, this suffering creature, stand alone and unwanted. Nobody believed in him. Nobody thought he had any value. Everyone had already decided that he was nothing, that he was trash, that he should be forgotten. Without thinking anymore, without planning, without caring about the consequences, Marcus raised his hand high in the air. $500, he shouted, his voice loud and clear across the quiet barn. The barn exploded. People turned to look at him. The auctioneer could not believe what he had heard. Did someone say $500? For this horse? Well, that is the bid. Going once, going twice, going... Sold to the man in the back. It was done. Marcus had just spent all of his money on a broken horse. Everyone in the barn stared at him like he was crazy. Some people started to laugh. The auctioneer shook his head in disbelief. But Marcus did not care. He walked to the ring and stood next to the black stallion. He reached out and placed his hand on the horse's neck. The horse did not pull away. The horse looked at Marcus, and for just a moment, Marcus thought he saw a tiny light in those dark eyes. A tiny spark of hope. Do not worry, Marcus whispered to the horse. I believe in you. I will take care of you. You are not broken. You are not worthless. You are going to be okay. I promise you. The black stallion did not move, but something had changed. Something important had happened. A man with nothing left had found a reason to believe. And a horse that had lost everything had found someone who cared. Everything was about to change. The truck pulled slowly up the dirt road that led to Marcus's small cottage. Behind the truck, a horse trailer rattled and swayed. Inside the trailer, the black stallion moved nervously. He had never been in this place before. He did not know where he was going. All he knew was that his whole life had been nothing but fear and pain. And now everything was different, but he did not know if different meant better or worse. Marcus jumped out of the truck. His heart was racing. He had done something crazy, and now he had to face it. The stallion had to come out of the trailer. Marcus had to figure out what to do with a broken horse that he could not afford to keep. But first, he had to see if the horse would even step out. He had to see if the horse would trust him. He opened the back of the trailer slowly. The black stallion stood in the shadows, shaking. His whole body trembled like he was very cold, even though the day was warm. Marcus spoke softly, in a voice so quiet that it was almost a whisper. It is okay, boy. It is okay. You are safe now. Come on, come out. I will not hurt you. Nobody will hurt you anymore. The stallion did not move at first. He was terrified. Everything in his life had taught him to be afraid. But then, slowly, he took one step forward. Then another. His bad leg was shaking badly. He limped down the ramp of the trailer, his weight mostly on his 3 good legs. Marcus watched and waited. He did not reach out to touch the horse. He did not move closer. He just let the stallion come to him at his own speed. When the horse finally stood on solid ground, he stopped and looked around. He looked at the open pasture. He looked at the sky. He looked at Marcus. His dark eyes were full of confusion and fear. Welcome home, Marcus said quietly. This is your home now. That first week was very hard. The stallion would not eat much. He would not drink water. He would stand in the corner of the pasture and shake, his eyes watching everything, always waiting for something bad to happen. Marcus spent hours just sitting near the horse, doing nothing, saying nothing. He would sit on the ground a few feet away and just be there. Present. Not threatening. Not demanding anything. The people in the town of Red Ridge noticed. They saw Marcus with his broken horse, and they laughed. At the diner, men talked about it. "That fool Marcus spent $500 on a horse that cannot even walk," one man said, shaking his head. "He has lost his mind," another said. "That horse will never be any good. He will never ride him. He will never work him. Marcus just wasted all his money." "Why would anyone do something so stupid?" a woman asked. "The horse will probably die anyway. Then Marcus will have nothing at all." But Marcus did not care what people said. He was too busy trying to save a life. After 2 weeks, Marcus started to really examine the stallion's bad leg. He wanted to understand what was wrong. He was very gentle, touching the leg slowly, carefully, watching how the horse reacted. When he touched a certain spot, the stallion would cry out in pain. But Marcus did not stop. He needed to know the truth. What he found made his heart break. The leg was not broken. It was swollen and infected. The wound was old, very old. It had never been cleaned properly. It had never been treated with medicine or care. Someone had hurt this horse and then just left him to suffer, left him to limp around in pain day after day with no one to help him. Marcus began to clean the leg very carefully. He used warm water and soft cloth. He used medicine from the farm supply store. Every day he washed the leg, dried it gently, and applied healing cream. And every day, the horse limped a little less. The swelling started to go down. Then Marcus noticed something else. The stallion's coat was very dull and lifeless. His ribs showed through his skin because he was so thin. Marcus realized the truth. This horse had been starving. Someone had not fed him enough. Or maybe they had not fed him at all. They had just let him get thinner and thinner until he looked like he was dying. Marcus changed everything. He gave the stallion fresh hay, clean grain, and plenty of clean water. Within a few weeks, the horse started to gain weight. His coat began to shine. His dark black hair became glossy and beautiful. He was becoming a different animal. He was becoming the horse that he was always meant to be. But the most important discovery came one evening when Marcus was brushing the stallion's back. The horse suddenly froze. He made a small sound of fear. Marcus looked carefully at the horse's skin. What he saw made him feel sick to his stomach. There were scars. Long, deep scars all across the stallion's back and sides. They were old scars, faded now, but they told a terrible story. A story of violence. A story of someone hitting this horse again and again. A story of pain beyond what Marcus could even imagine. Someone had beaten this horse. They had beaten him until he stopped fighting back. They had beaten him until he gave up hope. They had beaten him until his spirit was broken. That night, Marcus sat alone in his small cottage. He thought about the stallion. He thought about all the suffering the horse had gone through. He thought about how everyone in the town said the horse was worthless, how they said the horse was broken and dangerous. But Marcus knew the truth now. The horse was not dangerous. The horse was not broken because of who he was. The horse was broken because of what people had done to him. The next morning, Marcus went out to the pasture early, before the sun came up. The stallion was waiting for him at the gate. The horse had started to trust him. The horse had started to believe that Marcus was different from all the others. Marcus placed his hand on the stallion's neck. "I promise you something," Marcus said, his voice steady and strong. "I promise that you will never be hurt again. I promise that you will know what it means to be loved. I promise that I will show this whole town that you are not worthless. You are special. You are strong. You are brave. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure that everybody knows it." The stallion looked into Marcus's eyes. And something changed in that moment, something important. The horse began to understand. He began to understand that this man was different. This man believed in him. This man would not give up on him. The healing had truly begun. 4 months had passed since Marcus brought the stallion home. The horse now had a name. Marcus called him Shadow, because he followed Marcus everywhere like a shadow follows a person in the sunlight. The two had become inseparable. Every morning, before the sun rose, Marcus would walk out to the pasture, and Shadow would be waiting for him at the gate. The horse would watch for Marcus, and as soon as he saw him coming, Shadow would come running, not limping anymore, running with strong, powerful legs. The bad leg had healed completely, the infection was gone, the swelling had disappeared. The stallion was no longer in pain. Marcus would open the gate, and Shadow would walk right beside him, their shoulders almost touching. The horse would rest his head on Marcus's shoulder while they walked. It was a gesture of trust. It was a gesture of love. Marcus would place his hand on Shadow's neck and feel the warmth of the horse's body, the strong muscles underneath the glossy black coat. "Good morning, boy," Marcus would say every single day. "How are you feeling today? Are you ready to work? Are you ready to show everyone what you can do?" Shadow would make a soft sound, almost like he was answering, almost like he understood every word. The transformation was amazing to see. Shadow's coat now shined like polished black glass. His mane was long and beautiful and clean. His body was strong and muscular. He had gained weight and strength. His eyes were bright and intelligent. He no longer looked like a broken, worthless animal. He looked like a champion. He looked like the horse he was always meant to be. But the most important changes were not on the outside. The most important changes were deep inside Shadow's heart and mind. Marcus began to train him, not with force or cruelty like whoever had beaten him before. Marcus used patience and kindness and treats and soft words. He would teach Shadow one small thing at a time. First, Marcus taught him to come when called. It took days, but Shadow learned. Then Marcus taught him to stop when Marcus raised his hand. It took more days, but Shadow learned this too. Every lesson was small and simple. Every lesson was about building trust. Every lesson was about showing Shadow that Marcus would never hurt him, that Marcus would never ask him to do something dangerous, that Marcus believed in him. Slowly, Shadow began to understand. This man was different. This man cared about him. This man loved him. By the third month, Shadow could do incredible things. He could jump over fences. He could turn in circles. He could stand perfectly still while Marcus groomed him. He could respond to the smallest signals. He could do all of these things because he trusted Marcus completely. He wanted to make Marcus proud. The two of them spent every moment together. They would ride through the rolling hills outside of town. Marcus would sit on Shadow's back, and they would move together like they were one living thing, not two separate creatures. Shadow would run fast when Marcus wanted him to run. Shadow would slow down and walk when Marcus wanted him to walk. They moved in perfect harmony. People in Red Ridge still did not believe. They still doubted. They still laughed. "That horse will never be any good," men said at the diner. "You cannot fix a broken horse. That horse has a bad nature. Sooner or later, he will hurt someone." "Marcus is wasting his time," another person said. "He should sell that horse and get his money back. He should stop being so foolish." Even Marcus's own brother tried to warn him. "You are getting too attached to that animal," his brother said one day. "Something bad is going to happen. That horse has already cost you $500. Do not lose your mind over a horse." But Marcus did not listen to the doubts. He did not care what people said. He knew the truth. He knew Shadow. He knew what Shadow could do. He knew what Shadow was capable of. One evening, Marcus and Shadow were in the pasture together. It was sunset, and the sky was full of beautiful colors, orange and pink and red and purple. The light was soft and golden. It was the most beautiful time of the day. Marcus was sitting on the ground, his back against a fence post. Shadow came and stood next to him. The horse lowered his head and gently rested it against Marcus's back. They sat together like this, not moving, not talking, just being together. Marcus reached up and placed his hand on the horse's nose. The horse breathed softly, and Marcus could feel the warm breath on his hand. In that moment, Marcus understood something very important. He understood that love was not just about big actions and dramatic moments. Love was about these small moments. Love was about showing up every day. Love was about patience and kindness, and never giving up on someone, even when everyone else had given up on them. Marcus felt tears running down his face. Not tears of sadness, but tears of happiness. He had lost so much in his life. His ranch, his wife, his money, his hope. He had lost almost everything, but in losing everything he had found Shadow, and Shadow had found him. "I love you, boy," Marcus whispered. "I love you so much. You saved me just as much as I saved you, maybe more. I do not know what I would do without you now." Shadow made a soft sound in his throat, a sound that seemed to say, "I love you too." The weeks that followed were the happiest that Marcus could remember in a very long time. He was no longer broken. He had purpose again. He had someone who needed him. He had someone who believed in him. He had Shadow. And Shadow was no longer afraid. He was no longer angry at the world. He was no longer suffering. He was happy. He was loved. He was home. Together, they trained every day. Shadow learned to jump higher and run faster and respond to even the smallest signals from Marcus. The horse was becoming stronger and more confident. But more than that, Shadow was becoming the best version of himself. The horse that he could be. The horse that he was always meant to be. Marcus knew that soon everyone would see what he already knew. Soon everyone would understand. Soon the whole world would know about Shadow. Soon people would stop laughing and start believing. But right now, in this moment, it was enough just to have each other. It was enough to have love. It was enough to have hope. And that was everything. The spring festival came to Redridge on a warm Saturday in May. The whole town gathered in the big field near the town centre. There were games and food and music and laughter. Children ran around playing with balloons. Families sat on blankets and ate pie. It was a happy day. It was supposed to be a celebration. Marcus had entered Shadow in the jumping competition. He did not really want to do it. He did not care what people thought anymore. But the town organizer had asked him, and Marcus believed it was time to show everyone what Shadow could do. It was time to prove that the horse everyone had laughed at was actually extraordinary. People gathered around the jumping course to watch. They were not there to cheer for Marcus. They were there to watch him fail. They were there to see the famous broken horse do something stupid and dangerous. They wanted to see Marcus embarrass himself in front of the whole town. The course had 4 jumps. Each jump was high and difficult. Shadow would have to have perfect control and perfect rhythm to complete the course. If he made even one mistake, he would not be able to finish. Marcus rode Shadow to the starting line. The horse walked calmly, his head held high. His beautiful black coat shined in the sunlight. His muscles moved smoothly under his skin. He looked like a champion. He looked proud. He looked ready. "Here comes the broken horse," someone said in the crowd, laughing. People whispered to each other. They made jokes. They did not believe Shadow could do this. But Shadow did not care what people said. He only cared about Marcus. He only cared about doing what his master asked him to do. Marcus gave the smallest signal. Shadow began to run. He ran toward the first jump with power and speed. He jumped perfectly, clearing the jump with so much height that it seemed like he was flying. People gasped. The first jump was complete. Shadow landed smoothly and ran toward the second jump. His back legs pushed off the ground with incredible strength. He flew through the air, his body beautiful and graceful, and cleared the second jump easily. People started to cheer a little bit. Maybe this broken horse was not so broken after all. The third jump was the highest. Shadow did not slow down. He ran faster and jumped higher than ever before. He soared through the air like a bird, and he cleared the jump with room to spare. People cheered louder now. Even the people who doubted Shadow could not help but be impressed. The final jump was the most dangerous. It was not just high, it was also wide. Shadow would have to jump far as well as jump high. It was the kind of jump that separated the good horses from the great horses. Shadow took a deep breath. Marcus leaned forward in the saddle, trusting the horse completely. And Shadow ran. He ran like his life depended on it. He ran like he was running away from all the pain of his past. He ran like he was running toward his future. He jumped with all the power in his body, and he cleared the final jump perfectly. The crowd exploded. People jumped up and screamed and cheered. They could not believe what they had just seen. The horse that everyone said was worthless had just completed a perfect course. The horse that everyone said was broken had just performed like a champion. Marcus brought Shadow back to the center of the field. People were clapping and shouting his name. It was the moment he had been waiting for. It was the moment when everyone would finally understand. Finally, they would believe. But then everything changed. A small girl named Emma, who was only 4 years old, had wandered away from her mother. She had been watching the jumping competition, and she was so excited that she ran toward Shadow. She wanted to touch the beautiful black horse. She wanted to see him up close. Emma's mother was not paying attention. She was talking to another woman and did not see her daughter run away. By the time she looked around, Emma was already in the middle of the field, running toward Shadow and Marcus. "Emma, no, come back!" her mother screamed. But Emma did not listen. She just kept running. And that is when disaster struck. One of the equipment workers had been moving the heavy wooden jumps. He was not paying attention. A big wooden fence jumped off the back of his wagon. It started rolling down the hill. It was rolling fast. It was rolling right toward Emma. People screamed. Mothers covered their children's eyes. Emma's mother ran toward her daughter, but she was too far away. She would never reach her in time. The wooden fence would hit the little girl. Everyone watched in horror, unable to stop what was about to happen. But Shadow saw it. The Stallion did not think. He did not hesitate. He did not need Marcus to tell him what to do. Shadow simply acted on pure instinct, pure love, pure courage. Shadow broke free and ran toward Emma. He moved faster than he had ever moved before. His hooves pounded the ground. His powerful muscles drove him forward. He ran like he was flying. The wooden fence was almost to Emma. She did not even see it coming. She was too small to understand the danger. She was just a little girl who wanted to pet a horse. Shadow reached her just in time. The Stallion planted himself between Emma and the falling fence. He used his own body as a shield. The heavy wooden fence hit Shadow hard, striking his back and side with tremendous force. The fence knocked the wind out of him. It would have crushed the little girl. But Shadow had taken the impact instead. The fence stopped rolling. Shadow stood there, breathing hard, his legs shaking from the force of the blow. Emma was safe. She was not hurt at all. She was standing right there between Shadow's front legs, and she was completely unharmed. The entire town stood frozen in shock. Nobody could believe what they had just seen. A horse that they thought was dangerous had just saved a child's life. A horse that they said was worthless had just proved he was the most valuable creature among them. Emma's mother ran to her daughter and picked her up, holding her tight. She was crying. Everyone was crying. Even the men who had laughed at Marcus were crying. The veterinarian who was at the festival came running. He examined Shadow carefully, checking his back and side and legs. "The horse is very strong," he said with amazement. "That fence would have killed that child. But the horse will be okay. He is injured, but he will heal. He is very brave." Marcus jumped off Shadow's back and threw his arms around the Stallion's neck. He buried his face in Shadow's mane and cried. These were not tears of sadness. These were tears of pride. These were tears of vindication. These were tears of love. "You did it, boy," Marcus whispered. "You did it. You showed them. You showed everyone what you really are. You are a hero. You are a champion. You are the best horse that has ever lived." Shadow stood there, hurt and tired, but proud. He had proven something that Marcus already knew. He had proven that he was not broken. He was not worthless. He was brave. He was noble. He was extraordinary. And in that moment, the entire town finally understood. They finally saw what Marcus had seen from the very beginning. They finally believed. 3 weeks had passed since the festival. Shadow was healing beautifully. The wooden fence had left a long purple bruise across his back and side, but the bruise was fading. His ribs were a little sore, and he moved carefully when he first woke up in the morning. But every day, he got stronger. Every day, he recovered more. And every day, he seemed to understand even better what he had done. Marcus spent most of his time with Shadow. He would sit beside the horse and talk to him for hours. He would tell Shadow stories about his past, about his failed ranch, about his wife who left him, about all the disappointment he had known. And Shadow would listen, his dark eyes peaceful and kind. "You gave me a second chance, boy," Marcus said one afternoon, running his hands along Shadow's glossy neck. "I did not think I deserved one. I thought my life was over. I thought I was too old to start again. But you showed me that second chances are real. You showed me that you can change. You showed me that the world is not as cruel as it seems. The town of Redridge had completely changed since that day at the festival. People who had laughed at Marcus now came to apologize. They brought food. They brought medicine for Shadow. They brought their children to see the famous horse who had saved a little girl's life. The local newspaper sent a reporter. The story of Marcus and Shadow appeared on the front page. It was titled, "Broken Horse, Broken Man, One Beautiful Second Chance." Newspapers from other towns picked up the story. People started calling and writing letters. They wanted to know more about this man and his horse. They wanted to know how love and patience could transform a broken life into something beautiful. Emma, the little girl who Shadow had saved, came to visit every day. Her mother would bring her to the pasture, and Emma would run to Shadow without any fear. She would pet his nose and his neck. She would tell him stories about her day. And Shadow would stand very still, patient and gentle, like he was taking care of a precious treasure. "Thank you for saving my Emma," Emma's mother said to Marcus one day. There were tears in her eyes. "I cannot imagine what would have happened if Shadow had not been there. I cannot imagine my life without my daughter. You saved my family. That horse saved my family." Marcus did not know what to say. He had not done anything. Shadow was the one who had been brave. Shadow was the one who had acted with courage. All Marcus had done was believe in him. One morning, a man came to visit Marcus. He was a wealthy man from the city, driving an expensive truck. He wanted to buy Shadow. He offered Marcus $50,000. $50,000! It was more money than Marcus had ever seen in his entire life. It was enough money to buy a new ranch. It was enough money to start over completely. Marcus looked at the man. He looked at the money being offered. And then he looked at Shadow. Shadow was standing by the gate, watching Marcus, waiting for him, trusting him. Trusting. Marcus turned to the man. "No," he said simply. "Shadow is not for sale. He is not mine to sell. He is my family. He is my life. No amount of money could ever be worth that." The man did not understand. He tried to offer more money. He offered $100,000. Marcus just shook his head. "Some things cannot be bought," Marcus said. "Some things are worth more than all the money in the world." The man left, angry and confused. But Marcus did not care. He had discovered something more important than money. He had discovered purpose. He had discovered love. He had discovered that a life built on connection and loyalty and faith was worth infinitely more than a life built on wealth and power. Marcus's brother came to visit. He looked at the pasture. He looked at Shadow. He looked at Marcus. And he began to cry. "I was wrong," his brother said. "I thought you were crazy. I thought you were making the biggest mistake of your life, but I was wrong. Look at you. Look at what you have done. You took a horse that everyone said was worthless, and you loved him until he became the greatest horse this town has ever seen. And look at yourself. You are not the broken man I knew before. You are whole again. You are happy. You are alive." Marcus embraced his brother, and they held each other for a long time. All the pain of the past years seemed to wash away. The veterinarian who had examined Shadow after the accident came to see Marcus one day. He brought a proposal. He wanted Marcus to start a sanctuary for hurt and broken animals. A place where animals that had been abused or rejected could come to heal. A place built on the same principles that had saved Shadow: patience, kindness, love, belief. "You have proven that you can save lives," the veterinarian said. "Not just Shadow's life, but also Emma's life. I think you should do this for other animals. There are so many animals out there that need someone like you. Someone who believes in them when nobody else does." Marcus looked at Shadow, and the horse looked back at him. And somehow they both seemed to understand what this meant. It was a new purpose, a new reason to wake up every morning. 1 year later, Marcus's animal sanctuary was fully built. It had pastures and barns and medical facilities. There were 12 horses there now, all of them rescued from bad situations, all of them healing, all of them learning to trust again. Shadow was the head horse. He was the one who welcomed the new horses. He was the one who showed them that healing was possible. Children came from schools all over the area to learn about Shadow and the other animals. Marcus would tell them about second chances. He would tell them that they could choose to see the good in others. even when the world said there was no good to see. On a quiet evening, Marcus stood in the pasture with Shadow. The sun was setting, painting the sky with beautiful colors. Shadow rested his head on Marcus's shoulder, just like he had done 1,000 times before, and Marcus felt complete. He thought about the day he bought Shadow at the auction. He thought about how foolish everyone said he was. He thought about all the doubts and laughter and disbelief. He thought about how Shadow had taught him to believe when belief seemed impossible. "Thank you," Marcus whispered to the horse. "Thank you for changing my life. Thank you for showing me what love really means." Shadow made a soft sound, almost like a sigh. A sound that seemed to say, "We saved each other." And that was the truth. Marcus had saved Shadow. But Shadow had also saved Marcus. They had both been broken. They had both lost hope. But they had found each other, and in finding each other, they had both found their way home. The broken stallion was no longer broken. The broken man was no longer broken. And in the peaceful pasture where it all began, they stood together, healed and whole and finally, truly, at peace.